So NBA 2K My Team is now 10 years old. It's been 10 years. And as somebody who has played this game religiously for the past 10 years, I feel like I'm in an okay position to make a full-on documentary. Not just of NBA 2K22, which hopefully will be coming next week, of all NBA 2K My Teams, from NBA 2K13 all the way to NBA 2K22 right now. So yeah, it's been a long journey, lads. We have a lot of different game modes to cover, and this video is taking me so long to make, so long to plan for. So please, if you guys are new, please subscribe. We're trying to hit 300k. But anyway, now let's get on to it. To say the very first My Team was bare bones is an understatement. You literally had Road to the Playoffs, which was basically the main game mode, and Exhibition Games, which was basically playing offline. There were no other game modes in the entire game. The market was about how well a player played, and nothing to do with whether the cards were good in game. So we had Al Horford as the most expensive card in the game. We had LeBron for some reason cheap because his standard was set so high that he went low. And the best player in the game, Gerald Green, was 250 VC, which was literally the minimum price you could get a card for in that game. Players hadn't become cards yet, and players were packed out of booster packs. You get a gold booster, which basically raised your chance of getting a gold player, but you weren't even guaranteed a player in the first place. There was a purple booster pack, which is like 3,000 VC. And VC was cheaper back then than it is now, as far as I'm aware. So, and that purple pack guaranteed a player. Most time it was bronze or silver. The funny thing is that you saw the market there where players went up and down. You might think, how did Legends get purchased? Legends you could only get Legends through these packs right here. That was the only way to get Legends. As you can see, Shake going and pulling a Del Curry right here. So these Legends also, you couldn't sell them in an auction house that hadn't existed yet. These were the same price as like your Gerald Green. They were minimum price. So if you wanted to get rid of a Legend, you basically were selling them for 500. I repeat, 500 coins. But also, that wasn't worth anything. And there was no duplicate. So if you got a duplicate of a player, you just had to sell them straight away. You couldn't do anything about it. In order to play a game, you had to pay a VC salary. So a lot of people were using bronzes because they cost nothing. As well as that, the salary went up for players if you put signature skills on them, which were basically the equivalent of badges. So if you added a badge to a player, basically it meant you had to pay double the amount of salary for said player for one single game. Thankfully, getting this VC wasn't too bad because you could get about 10-20k in 2 hours from doing the VC glitch, which was basically enough to buy yourself a LeBron and sort your contracts. Thank you, Shake. 2K13 gameplay wise might be the worst gameplay we've ever had in a 2K game. Contests, what were they? There was no such thing as a contest. Dunks literally could not be blocked. So once you got into a dunk animation, you either missed the dunk or you dunked it on them. It was literally impossible to block dunks. And worst of all, lads, worst of all, the stupid unguardable Euro step fadeaway 3-point shots. If you shot a fade, if you took some Euro step animation, if you did a step back, it didn't matter. If you had the Acrobat badge and a shooter, it went in every time. You literally were running down the court and shooting Euro step fast break threes on people, and they were going in. Looking back on it, 2K13 My Team was incredibly bare bones. Again, you can see up the top, Goran Dragic and Larry Sanders, the two most expensive players in the game, whereas like LeBron was like 19,000, which was just kind of a crazy situation. A market which didn't really work as intended because, again, Horford was more expensive than near unanimous MVP LeBron James. Almost everybody ran with the same lineups. Legends were unable to be purchased unless it was through packs. This was the most bare bones My Team, but it was a start. This is how we all got our start. Well, some of us got our start in the game. And yeah, that was it for the first year. So 2K14 launched with some major changes. They brought in tournaments, which we haven't seen since. They brought in a schedule mode, which I'm not going to lie, 82 games for like a scrub Sapphire card was not worth it. And also, they brought in leaderboards, which something we haven't really seen back again. I know we saw Supermax, but that was pretty much it. However, there was a few upsides and a few just massive negatives. So as you guys can see from this pack opening right here, packs became way more expensive. Packs were guaranteed gold players, and people were like, okay, that's a fine trade-off. But the market was gone. No longer could you buy players, could you sell players. Every single player you got had to come from a pack, which I'm not gonna lie, was not the best thing in the world. It did mean there was variation in squads, but it also almost forced people to spend money on the game. If you weren't spending money on the game or you weren't doing the VC glitch, again, thank you, Shake, you were getting screwed playing against better teams. As well as that, with no choice really over the players you got, you were forced to use whichever players you got lucky to pull out of packs. You were actually completely unable, and I mean completely unable to choose who you used pretty much. So you weren't able to use some of your favorite players just because you just didn't pack them. Gameplay wise for its time, I would go as far as to say PS3 2K14 is the most balanced 2K we've ever had. They fixed the unblockable dunks, you can now block dunks. They fixed all the Eurostep 3-pointers. Most of the cheese from 2K13 got fixed. But in general, it was one of these things where people played it for a few months just to keep them ticking over because everybody knew the PS4 and the Xbox One were coming out. So people just played this game mode for a little bit. So 2K14 Next Gen was so good that Chris Smoove to this day is still uploading videos on it. In my opinion, in terms of pure gameplay wise, the best 2K of all time, in my opinion, is 2K14 Next Gen. The menus looked better, there were more things to do. They introduced locker codes. They introduced challenges. So you could play challenges, for example, for like a Sapphire Scottie Pippen, a Sapphire James Harden, a Ruby, I can't remember, was it Ruby Steph Curry with a challenge? And then there was also like locker codes for Iguodala, Andre Drummond, Kobe, Kevin Durant, things like that. Gameplay wise, I found it fun, but there was a bit of a duplicate player issue where you could actually run two of the same players, which meant that you often saw, and I mean, I did it myself, 2-3 Michael Jordans in the same lineup because he was like the only 99 overall player. As far as graphics went, this game was beautiful for its time. In my opinion, just the way the lighting was, everything about 2K14, I still think it's one of, I'm not going to say the graphics are the best, because when you look at the players' faces, they're not nearly as good as now. But I think just the best overall look of a 2K game in terms of lighting, still to this day, is 2K21 Next Gen, or say 2K14 Next Gen. The game wasn't without its issues though. So you can see here from this video from Cash, they actually released later on in the year an Emerald LeBron James card who never was in packs. So Cash is out here spending hundreds of dollars on stream for a card that he knew for a fact he was not going to be, well, not he knew for a fact he was not going to be able to get, for a card that in hindsight we look back and he was completely unable to get this card. And then they ended up, everyone who opened one of these packs, they gave them the Emerald LeBron James. So even guys like Cash who spent like $100 in these packs, a couple of hundred, it was just very not great situation there. So online the rewards were still very bare bones with just road to the playoffs. However, they did bring in the first like quote unquote collector level reward. If you got the best player on every team, which it actually didn't work out properly because it wasn't the best player on every team. Like for Miami Heat, you had to get Wade. For like the Grizzlies, you had to get Randolph, who's an 83 overall, instead of Marc Gasol, who's an 87 overall. But if you got the quote-unquote best player, as according to 2K on each team, even though it wasn't the best player, you got a Diamond LeBron James card. Yep, a Diamond LeBron James. The issue with this was that the card looked cool more than anything. I will say that he looked cool. He was the only Diamond you could get. Well, he was completely RNG. You had to get him through packs. He was the only Diamond you could get that wasn't locker code. So I personally only had Diamond Kobe. I didn't even have that Diamond LeBron. But he was a definite unbelievable card for his time. But the means of getting him probably wasn't worth it. 2K14 was also the launch of locker codes. So the first locker code came around Christmas and it was for a Diamond Kobe Bryant. And Chris Smoove got the card, did a gameplay on him. And then 2K eventually released locker code. I think they only released to like 250 people. As time went on, they released more and more locker codes. They released a Durant locker code that kept getting leaked. The code literally just kept getting leaked. People just kept typing in the code before it actually came out. And also there was a Diamond Kobe code that came out in February, which I got. There was a Duncan code, which I never ended up getting. And as far as I'm aware, I think they were the only three like limited time locker codes. It was the start of limited time locker code, or not limited time, limited quantity locker codes, when a certain amount of people could get them. That really picked up in 2K15. But there were also a lot of codes that were unlimited quantity, like Ruby Andre Iguodala, Ruby Andre Drummond. But again, these were really good cards, but it wasn't until 2K15 where locker codes really became the best cards in the game. There were still huge issues of not being able to buy players, only being able to get players of packs. But they did add team packs this year, so you could literally get players from a certain team. Yeah, it was still some more NG, but it was a lot better, for example, than 2K13 as well as 2K14 current gen. Most people had most of the cards they wanted. I think I didn't spend any money on the game, I didn't even do any VC glitches or anything this year, and I still had basically every player I could have ever wanted in my team. So while 2K14 is very, very bare bones by today's standard, it was the step up that we did need from 2K13 to keep the mode kind of alive. Had I not stepped up, I think the mode would have died. However, the biggest step up was to come in this next year. Other than, I think, the gap between, say, 2K18, 19, and probably 2021, the 2K14-15 gap was huge.